ഡെയിൽ ഡിബേറ്റിന്റെ ടോപ്പിക്കൽ ഇഷ്യൂ സെഷനിൽ മൈഗ്രന്റ് നഴ്സസ് അയർലൻഡിനു വേണ്ടി മൈഗ്രന്റ് ഹെൽത്ത് കെയർ അസിസ്റ്റന്റുമാർ നേരിടുന്ന പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ ജോൺ കോളിൻസ് ടിഡിയും മൈക്ക് ബേരി ടിഡിയും ഉന്നയിച്ചു. ഇന്ത്യ ഉൾപ്പെടെയുള്ള രാജ്യങ്ങളിൽ നിന്ന് എത്തുന്ന ഹെൽത്ത് കെയർ അസിസ്റ്റന്റുമാരുടെ സേവനങ്ങൾ പ്രശംസനാർഹമാണെന്നും ഇവർ നേരിടുന്ന ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകൾ ഒരു തരത്തിലും അംഗീകരിക്കാൻ സാധിക്കില്ലെന്നും അവർ പറഞ്ഞു. അയർലൻഡിലെ ഹെൽത്ത് കെയർ അസിസ്റ്റന്റുമാരുടെ വിവിധ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾക്ക് പരിഹാരം തേടിയുള്ള MNIയുടെ ശ്രമഫലമാണ് പുതിയ ചർച്ചകൾക്ക് വഴിയൊരുക്കിയത്. അയർലൻഡിൽ HCAമാരായി എത്തുന്ന ഭൂരിഭാഗവും ജനറൽ വർക്ക് പെർമിറ്റ് വിസയിലുള്ളവരാണ്. അവരുടെ കുടുംബത്തെ ഇവിടെ എത്തിക്കുവാനുള്ള പ്രായോഗിക ബുദ്ധിമുട്ടുകൾ നേരിടുന്നു. കൂടാതെ കൂടുതൽ പേരും നഴ്സുമാർ ആണെന്നിരിക്കെ OQI Level 5 പോലുള്ള നഴ്സിംഗിലും ചെറിയ കോഴ്സുകൾ ചെയ്യാൻ അവരെ നിർബന്ധിക്കുന്ന ശ്രമങ്ങൾക്കും എതിരെയുള്ള പ്രതിഷേധം ഡൈലിനെ അറിയിച്ചു. ഇന്ത്യൻ നഴ്സുമാരും കെയർ അസിസ്റ്റന്റുമാരും ഐറിഷ് ആരോഗ്യരംഗത്ത് ചെയ്യുന്ന സേവനങ്ങൾ മഹത്തരമാണെന്ന് കാംകോർല അഥവാ അയർലൻഡ് പാർലമെന്റ് സ്പീക്കർ ഷോൺ ഒ ഫോഗൽ അഭിപ്രായപ്പെട്ടു. ഈ പ്രശ്നങ്ങൾ പരിഹരിക്കാൻ മന്ത്രിയുമായി ചർച്ച നടത്താൻ തന്റെ ഓഫീസിന്റെ സഹായം ഉണ്ടാകുമെന്നും അദ്ദേഹം കൂട്ടിച്ചേർത്തു.
We move to item 2, which comes from Deputy Joan Collins and Deputy Mick Barry. They wish to discuss the situation facing a group of nurses, mainly from India, working as healthcare assistants under a work permit scheme. Deputy Collins, you have 2 minutes, and then Deputy
Thanks, Cian Corrin. Thanks for taking up this issue tonight. I'm raising this issue on behalf of the Migrant Nurses Ireland Minister, who explained their plight at a presentation in the AV room 2 weeks ago. And that meeting was organised by Deputy Barry. The issue of recruitment and retention has been and still is now a huge problem for the HCA. We were only discussing it today at the Autism Committee. And the HCA, as part of an international recruitment campaign through the Department of Enterprise, introduced a general work employment permit for care assistants from non-EU countries scheme. At the time, it was agreed with the Department of Health that the minimum salary would be $27,000 per annum. There are approximately 3,000 people on the permit now. As part of the scheme, these workers are obliged to undertake a QQ1 Level 5 course for a healthcare assistant. And this is despite, Minister, that many of the Indians on the scheme are qualified nurses whose qualification allows them to register as a nurse here with the Nursing and Midwifery Board of Ireland after a language test and adaptation course to the Irish health system. It's a bit mad that they're working as healthcare assistants and they have that qualification. The QQI courses cost up to €1,700 and they are at the expense of the worker. So I'm asking the Minister, will the state negotiate changing the conditions to allow these workers to be recognised to become HCA carers on the basis of the qualifications of their nursing, that they should just do an English language test plus the issue of adaptation course to the Irish health system, because it seems crazy that these nurses are overqualified, and they're literally being kept in a low pay and family reunion exclusion trap because they're mainly in the private sector. They're in 27,000. That's the starting rate, and the qualification to bring over a spouse is 30,000 per annum. So they're in a real quandary.
Minister or Deputy Barry, please. Nearly called you Minister Barry.
It's only a matter of time.
You'd be very upset by that.
It's only a matter of time, Cian Corla. That will be in a socialist government, by the way, but that's another matter. Okay, so, Minister, you're the Minister for Mental Health, and yet...
But it's actually Minister Brown that's dealing with this. So.
Oh, okay, well, the Minister for Mental Health is here this evening, and your government's policy is putting these Indian nurses through a mental health ringer. Deputy Collins mentioned that there was 3,000 mainly Indian nurses working here as healthcare assistants. 1,000 came over at the start of the year on 2-year work permits. They're working in private nursing homes as healthcare assistants. They're doing vital work for our health service. Vital work. But it is difficult, draining, mentally draining work And the policy of the government means that they're forced to do this work while being separated from their partners and their children. It's a forceful separation, because the arrangement stipulates that the pay has to be 27,000. Now, you might say, OK, the private nursing homes can top the money up. You know that's not going to happen. 27,000 a year. And yet, for family reunification, for the visa, the minimum to even be considered is 30,000. So the state, the government, are forcing these workers to do this extremely difficult work while separated from their partners and their children. Very difficult even to make a phone call and to reconnect with a phone call when India is 4.5 hours ahead of where we are. You finish work at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening. How are you going to make a phone call home to the kids? So there's two ways in which you can deal with this. You can reduce, I don't think there should be any threshold, but you reduce the threshold to 27,000 to allow for the family reunification, or you increase the pay to over 30,000. In the public sector, in the HSE, the pay is nearly 32,000. That's the road that should be taken. What say you on that?
Notwithstanding the points you make, I think we can all agree that Indian professional healthcare workers are making a huge contribution to the Irish healthcare service, and without them, we would be in serious difficulty. Minister.
Thank you, Count Corda, and I'd like to thank the deputies for raising this very important matter. Ireland's employment permit system is designed to accommodate the arrival of non-EEA nationals to fill skills and labour gaps for the benefit of our economy in the short to medium term, but this objective must be balanced by the need to ensure that there are no suitably qualified Irish or EEA nationals available to undertake the work, and that the shortage is a genuine one. The system is managed through the operation of the critical skills and ineligible occupations list, which determines employments that are either in high demand or are ineligible for an employment permit, where it is evidence that there is more than sufficient availability of those skills in the domestic and EE labour market. In order to ensure the employment permit system is aligned with the current labour market intelligence, these lists undergo regular, evidence-based review guided by relevant research, a public stakeholder consultation, the views of the Economic Migration Interdepartmental Group and the relevant policy departments in the case of the Department of Health. Access to the General Employment Permit for the role of healthcare assistant was announced in June 2021 to address skills and labour shortages in the healthcare and nursing home sector. Increases in the ageing population and consequent increases in demand for services mean a significant number of healthcare assistants are required to provide sufficient long-term residential care for older people into the future. The General Employment Permit is used by the state to attract third-country nationals in occupations with remuneration thresholds of generally €30,000 and is subject to a labour market needs test, demonstrating that the employer was unable to fill the position from the Irish and EEA labour market. This policy also fulfils our obligations under the community preference principles of membership of the European Union. Holders of general employment permits are eligible to apply to the Minister for Justice for family reunification permissions after a period of 1 year. The conditions governing family reunification, including the remuneration levels required to be eligible to apply, are a matter for the Department of Justice. Thank you.
That answer. I thought there would be some sort of clarity about how the HSE would solve these issues that these workers are facing. The point that Deputy Barry made is quite correct. These families, when they finish at 8 o'clock, can't bring their children up at 1:30 in the morning in India, and when they finish on an early morning shift at 8 o'clock, their children are in school. So in many ways, they can only contact their children at the weekends. And yet, 30,000 is the per annum is the income that you must be earning to bring a spouse home. And then, if you want to bring a child home, it's an extra 3,000 per child. That means that if you have one child or two children, it could be 36,000. So, by virtue of the policy of the government, the 27,000 minimum payment per annum excludes those workers having any opportunity to bring their spouse or children over. So they've been separated for them for nearly 2 years. And the fact that they have to pay $1,700 for the QQI Level 5 for the HCA, where they're qualified nurses already, seems a bit mad. We want to keep these workers here. We don't want to. It's a poverty trap for them and a family reunification trap for them.
So the Indian nurses work here as healthcare assistants in private nursing homes for 2 years. At the end of the 2 years, you have to do the QQI Level 5. That's another 8 months. These are nurses. These are nurses. They're way above QQI Level 5. They've already done that and way more. So why force them to jump through that particular hoop? And then to add insult to injury, you ask them to pay for it out of their own pocket. I mean, they're already to the pin of the collar with the rents in this country, and then you ask them to pay out of their own pocket for a qualification that they already have the equivalent of and more. €1,700 it can cost for the QQI Level 5. So you've got two options here, in my opinion. Number one, you waive that demand, and I think that's the preferred option of the nurses. Waive that. But if you're not prepared to do that, at least let the state have the decency to fund those courses, rather than force those nurses who are giving blood, sweat and tears, providing a vital service, digging into their own pockets.
Thank you. Minister Brown to conclude.
Thank you, Concordia. The framework around access to employment permits for this role, as agreed with the Department of Health, include the requirement for the employment to offer a remuneration level of €27,000 or more, and for the permit holder to achieve a relevant Level 5 Quality and Qualifications Ireland QQI qualification after 2 years' employment in the state. The Level 5 qualification after 2 years is the minimum required for this role. This requirement was put in place to ensure all workers in the healthcare assistant role would develop their skills and range of qualifications and ensure a similar standard of learning would be met and delivered in the care of vulnerable patients across care settings.
Please. Deputy Barry, please.
The framework for the HCA provision intended, this question is the Department of Enterprise, so I'm answering on behalf of the Department of Enterprise. And
well,
I'm answering the question on behalf of the Department of Enterprise.
If you don't let the Minister finish.
The framework for the HCA provision intended that education and training needs to be provided by employers, with employees to be given access to funded educational programmes to gain the required level of qualifications as part of paid employment. Given the mix of public, private and voluntary providers in the nursing home sector, it is important to ensure that there is a common, validated framework of minimum standards, clinical career pathways and qualifications for staff. The COVID-19 Nursing Homes Expert Panel Review recommended that all healthcare assistants should have a relevant QQI Level 5 qualification or be working towards achieving it. It should be noted that under the Government Skills to Advance initiative, the Level 5 qualifications in healthcare, including L5 healthcare support and L5 health service skills, are available to employers and employees within the private nursing home sector to achieve the required standard under the new framework at no or low cost. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Meet these workers and find out what the issues are and try to resolve them.
You can talk to the Minister offline, and I'm sure Minister Brown, it's not his baby at the end of the day, but if you approach the relevant minister, and if you need assistance, my office will help in that regard.
GNN ന്യൂസ് അയർലൻഡിൽ നിന്നുള്ള പ്രധാന വാർത്തകളും ബ്രേക്കിംഗ് ന്യൂസുകളും അറിയുന്നതിന് GNN അയർലൻഡിന്റെ യൂട്യൂബ് ചാനൽ സബ്സ്ക്രൈബ് ചെയ്യുക.